Alright, so as a Terraria connoisseur, you definitely know that there's a theme between good and evil, light and dark, all that kind of thing in Terraria. Now you might be thinking this is a challenging theme to impart on a build, and I'm here to tell you that, well, actually, yeah, you're pretty right. But that didn't deter me from trying all the same. Hey Terraria fans, welcome back to another speed build video. Guys, in this one I'm going to be trying my best to make a build that sort of has this split between the good and evil theme. Now it's actually not as obvious as you may be thinking, it's actually a rather subtle touch, but this build is actually inspired generally by some of the previous builds we've done that relate to factories. Now specifically in this build, guys, I'm going to be following the template that I use for the mechanics. So if you haven't seen that build, check it out right here, and hopefully that'll give you a little bit more sense of what this is going to look like, but also because, it's a cool build and you should just check it out. Anyways, this busy factory build was meant to have that subtle touch of good versus evil, and I really do think that it came out pretty well, and I'm hoping you guys can at least see it relatively clearly, but I don't know, maybe it's just me. Now, if you want any additional clarity on any of these builds, guys, feel free to check me out on Twitch. The link is down below. And of course, if you're enjoying any of the content here on the channel, guys, feel free to hit the like, the subscribe, or the little dinner bell thingy so you can know when the next video hits the old YouTube universe. And because it helps the channel out, and it would be greatly appreciated. Now, before we hop into the build, guys, don't forget to stay until the end of the video because, of course, you'll see the entire build come together, but also you'll be able to see all the materials that I use. I will list them out and talk about them a little bit, anything that was unique or stood out. So I will be covering them. If you want to make something similar or make an exact replica, it's completely up to you. All right, so with all that said, guys, let's get to the build, shall we? All right, so with our busy factory build now done, guys, I'm going to quickly cover all of the materials like I promised at the beginning of this video. So definitely keep an eye on these if you're looking to make a replica or something similar, or at least have a starting point should you try to make your own sort of version of this build, because it's going to really be helpful. Now, that said, guys, I do encourage you to pause the video here if you want to take a closer look. And yeah, there's a lot going on here. So to start here, we're going to go ahead and look at the blocks. And of course, we're going to be using a lot of metallic type blocks, and palladium, tin, copper, and some cog are all going to be your friends in this one. I also use some adamantite beam along with some grate. Now, all those 6 blocks combined are going to be a really good baseline, if not like the baseline for any of your sort of more industrial looking builds, in my opinion. Of course, you can swap these out for whatever you like, but for this kind of build, I really think there is no replacing most of these. They just look really, really good. Beyond that, I also use some platinum brick and some team block, as well as some living fire block and some glass. Again, nothing too crazy here. I like to use the platinum brick for pipe work in combination with the palladium at times. I also used a lot of conveyor belts, which I don't use very often and should probably use a lot more in any of my mechanical builds. I always forget about these things, but yeah, definitely grab these if you're making something that's supposed to look like it's moving, because it pairs really nicely with the cog as well as the cog wall. And speaking of cog wall, guys, let's cover all of the walls because there are a lot. Now, I did go with some lava fall wall, which is something I don't typically use, and of course you can probably tell where that is. We also use some palladium column wall, which are going to be for the smokestacks and other areas within the build. I used some Grinch finger wall and a couple of different fences, including bamboo, some wrought iron fence, some boreal wood fence, and some rich mahogany fence. Now, perhaps the most unique one here is going to be our hardened ebon sand wall. I never use this. I use it only in a few places, of course. I think a lot of it actually in the smoke itself, but it looks pretty good. It's nice and dark and kind of blends in quite nicely. But that's really its only use here. I didn't really put it anywhere else, but it's an interesting wall that you should probably play around with a little bit, especially if you're trying to make some darker looking smoke clouds. I thought it looked quite nice. Now, unsurprisingly, we also used a ton of copper plating, some tin plating, and some cog wall, and we're actually using pink slab once again. I have been using this a lot more frequently. I think in the last 3 or 4 videos, I've actually pointed out how I don't use this enough. And here we are. This one has been used now 4 times in a row. So I don't know, maybe it's more common now, but I always look at pink slab and think I should use it more often, but apparently I'm already doing that. So I don't know, maybe I'm just crazy. Now, when it comes to paints, guys, it was very straightforward. We only used 4. So we used gray paint, some black paint, some deep red paint, and some sky blue paint. Now, I may have missed a paint here or there. I could be wrong, but those are really all the ones that we used. You could, of course, swap any of these colors out for anything that you like. I do think gray, of course, makes a ton of sense in an industrial build. White also tends to look good, but some combination of a sort of metallic type color is nice. But again, it's Terraria, guys. You can build as freely as you like, and I encourage you to do so. And yeah, guys, that pretty much covers all of the material. So I do hope that gives you a couple more insights into how I put this factory together. Of course, if I missed something or if you're curious about something, just leave me a comment down below because I will get back to you. Okay, so with all that said, guys, let's get on with the rest of the video. All right, so there you go, guys. There is our very weird, busy, good and evil themed factory now done. I don't really know what to call this thing. I just thought it was really kind of fun to put together. There's a lot of different elements, and I really do think they actually all look pretty good in conjunction. But I gotta say, it's really hard to pick out a favorite part. While the good and evil theme does sort of feel like it's there and it's very subtle, and I do like that. From a feature standpoint, I think I like that rail system that I made on the left side of the build. It just, I don't know, it's just really kind of interesting and different and actually turned out a lot better than I would have thought. And if I'm honest, those little towers burning off oil as well as those smokestacks, they also look pretty good as well. Now, while there are a lot of nice details and features, there are a couple areas where you may struggle if you're making something like this, or at least something similar. And certainly, I don't claim to be an expert on factory building, but one of the things I tend to struggle with is the color palette. I like to kind of keep things really gray and black and dirty and boring, but the problem with that is that then the whole build just feels kind of flat and, well, boring. So while you're not going to see it here in the edited version of this video, I did play around with colors quite a bit, and specifically around some of the liquids and the actual colors of the smokestacks. I just couldn't quite land on something that really sat well with me, but I think the final product does it justice, at least in my opinion. But let me know what you guys think of this build in the comments down below. What did you like? What would you change? And maybe what you'd like to see me make in a future video. Because as you know, I'm always taking suggestions, and I pretty much will build anything that I find interesting. But with all that said, guys, thank you so much for watching until the end of this video, and as always, thumbs if you liked it, subs if you loved it. We will see you in the next one.